Why Africa is still poor. Introduction. Africa, despite being rich in natural resources, biodiversity, and cultural heritage, remains one of the poorest continents in the world. Many African nations struggle with poverty, unemployment, poor infrastructure, weak education systems, and political instability. While the continent has seen economic growth in recent years, it remains far behind other parts of the world. This essay examines the key factors that continue to hold Africa back. Historical factors. 1. Colonialism and its legacy. Colonial rule, from the late 19th century to the mid-20th century, disrupted Africa's development. European powers exploited Africa's natural resources and labor for their own economic benefit. Colonizers structured African economies to serve European industries, creating economies based on raw material exports rather than self-sustaining industries. Additionally, arbitrary borders drawn by colonial powers created artificial nations that lumped together different ethnic and cultural groups. This has led to long-term conflicts and instability. 2. The slave trade and its impact. For centuries, millions of Africans were captured and sold into slavery, mainly to Europe and the Americas. This caused a devastating loss of human resources, particularly young, strong individuals who could have contributed to Africa's development. The social fabric of many African societies was destroyed, and economies were weakened as communities were left without skilled workers. 3. Post-colonial challenges. When African nations gained independence, many faced severe challenges. Weak institutions. Many post-independence governments lacked the experience and structure to govern effectively. Military coups. Many countries experienced coups and dictatorships. Economic dependence. Former colonial rulers continued to control Africa's economies through trade policies and multinational corporations. This post-colonial instability hindered Africa's ability to develop strong economies and governments. Political instability and corruption. 1. Poor leadership and governance. Many African nations have suffered under corrupt and authoritarian governments. Some leaders prioritize personal enrichment over national development. Political power is often used to control wealth, leading to mismanagement of public resources. 2. Corruption and mismanagement of resources. Corruption is a major obstacle to development in Africa. Government officials embezzle funds meant for public services, and many international corporations engage in bribery to gain access to Africa's resources. Example: Nigeria, one of Africa's largest oil producers, loses billions of dollars annually to corruption. Corruption weakens infrastructure, healthcare, and education, making it harder for ordinary people to escape poverty. 3. Conflicts and wars. Many African countries experience ongoing conflicts, including civil wars and ethnic violence. Example: the Democratic Republic of Congo has been in conflict for decades, partly due to competition over minerals like coltan, used in electronics. Wars displace millions of people, destroy infrastructure, and make economic development difficult. Many of these conflicts are worsened by foreign interests that supply weapons or exploit natural resources in war zone. Economic challenges. 1. Over-reliance on natural resources. Many African economies depend heavily on exporting raw materials like oil, gold, and diamonds. However, this creates problems. Price fluctuations. If global commodity prices drop, African economies suffer. Lack of diversification. Instead of building industries, many African countries remain stuck in resource extraction. Foreign exploitation. Western and Chinese companies often control resource extraction, keeping most of the profits. 2. Limited industrialization. Unlike Asia, which built strong manufacturing industries, Africa has struggled to industrialize. Most African countries import finished goods instead of producing them. Poor infrastructure, roads, electricity, water supply, makes industrial development difficult. A lack of skilled workers and investment further limits manufacturing growth. 3. Unfair global trade systems. Global trade policies often disadvantage Africa. Western agricultural subsidies. The US and Europe subsidize their farmers, making African agricultural exports uncompetitive. Unfair trade agreements. Many African countries are forced into deals that favor foreign corporations over local businesses. Debt dependency. Many African nations owe large debts to international lenders, which limits their ability to invest in development. Social and cultural factors. 1. Education deficiencies. Many African countries have poor education systems, with low literacy rates and inadequate funding. Example, in some African nations, fewer than 50% of children complete primary school. Poor education limits opportunities for skilled jobs and innovation. Many educated Africans leave for better opportunities abroad. Brain drain. 2. Poor healthcare systems. Diseases like HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis are widespread, reducing life expectancy. Weak healthcare infrastructure means many people lack access to medical treatment. Example, in some rural areas, people must travel miles to reach a basic clinic. 3. Gender inequality. Women often have fewer opportunities in education and employment. Cultural norms in some regions limit women's participation in the economy. Educating and empowering women could significantly improve Africa's economic potential. Environmental challenges. 1. Climate change and desertification. Africa is highly vulnerable to climate change. Droughts destroy crops and create food shortages. Desertification, expansion of deserts, reduces farmland. Many African farmers rely on rain-fed agriculture, making them highly susceptible to climate variations. 2. Deforestation and resource exploitation. Unregulated mining, logging, and land degradation are widespread. Example, in countries like Madagascar, deforestation has led to soil erosion, making farming difficult. Uncontrolled resource extraction harms rural communities that depend on the land for survival. Foreign influence and aid dependency. 1. Western aid, help or hindrance. While foreign aid helps in emergencies, it can also create long-term dependency. Some African governments rely on aid instead of developing sustainable economies. Corrupt officials sometimes divert aid money for personal use. 2. China's role in Africa. China has invested heavily in African infrastructure, but with mixed results. Positive, new roads, railways, and bridges improve connectivity. Negative, many projects are financed by loans, increasing African debt. Some Chinese companies bring their own workers instead of hiring locals, reducing job opportunities. 3. The role of international organizations. The IMF and World Bank provide financial assistance, but their policies often require African governments to cut social services. Example, structural adjustment programs, SAPs, forced some African countries to privatize healthcare and education, making services more expensive for the poor. The way forward, solutions to Africa's poverty. To overcome poverty, Africa needs 1. Good governance, fighting corruption and promoting democracy. 2. Education investment, improving schools and technical training. 3. Industrialization, developing local industries to reduce dependence on imports. 4. Regional trade, strengthening economic ties between African nations. 5. Climate adaptation, using sustainable agriculture and clean energy. 6. Responsible foreign investment, ensuring deals benefit African workers and businesses. Conclusion. Africa's poverty is the result of a mix of historical injustices, poor governance, economic challenges, and environmental factors. However, the continent has great potential. With better leadership, stronger education, industrial growth, and fairer global trade policies, Africa can rise out of poverty and reach its full potential. The future depends on African-led solutions, supported by ethical international partnerships.